Welcome to the Health Science Podcast of the National Health Association. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and I'm so pleased today to have as my guest Linda Middlesworth. Linda's really an incredible person. Her story is so inspirational, and she's someone who has really walked the talk. She's created a beautiful company called Vegan Mentoring, and we're going to really get into that. And she's really dedicated her life to really helping people on this path to plant-based living, and also with the consciousness of, animal safety, animal rights, and all of those issues, which we really want to get into. So, Linda, I'm so pleased. Welcome, Linda Middlesworth. Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association, the oldest organization in the world, championing the extraordinary benefits of a whole plant food diet and healthy lifestyle, as well as water-only fasting. We believe that health results from healthful living and focus on evidence-based science that promotes the health of you and your loved ones, as well as the health of all animals and the environment. We feature experts from a cross-section of disciplines within the plant nutrition, vegan, psychological, environmental, and animal compassion sectors. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, the NHA's Director of Health Education. Hi.
Oh, hi, Dr. Frank Sabatino. I've been wanting to meet you for the longest time. I was supposed to meet you almost when Victoria Moran invited me and Ellen Jaffe Jones to go to Florida to do something with you. And I forgot what happened and why it got canceled, but it never happened.
Right.
But I was so looking forward to that. So someday I will meet you in person.
Yeah, our paths crossed a little bit at the NHA conference, just very, very briefly. You were attending that other part of whatever that was with that other company.
We did it, yeah.
But it was great. Yeah, so just to jump in, your story is really inspirational, and you're one of these people that has come a little bit late to the party. A lot of times people get turned on to this earlier on. For you, you went through a whole range of health crises that kind of triggered this journey for you. So tell us a little bit about how that inspired you and what the motivation for your shift was.
Oh, thank you. I had no idea about any of this, of course. When I was 44, I was living in Sacramento and had just moved to a new address. And my new neighbor and I were walking our dogs around the park. I told her, even though I didn't know her well yet, about all my health issues. I had heart disease, I had cancer, I was 50 pounds overweight, and I had prediabetes, and I was not a happy camper. And I was teaching aerobics 25 classes a week. I thought, I'm healthy. I'm very physically active, teaching kickboxing and step and weight training, and I was a personal trainer too. And so I said, how can I be sick? I eat all the healthy food. I eat fish and chicken. I don't eat red meat. I don't even eat pigs, but I do eat cottage cheese and yogurt and pineapple. That's good for you, right? Well, she said to me, oh, Linda, well, let me tell you, you need to get a hold of Dr. John McDougall. And I said, who? Well, she told me about his book, and I went down that moment. I mean, right after we did our dog walk, and I bought the book and I read it 3 times. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I didn't know any of this. I couldn't believe that all these people had transformed their lives just by changing their food. There was one lady in there who had breast cancer. And she had been radiated and chemotherapy, and it still was there. But they said, we've ravaged your body so long, we have to give you a break. Well, during the break, she went searching and she found Dr. John McDougall. She went from size 18 to size 4. She lost her cancer. And that was after, a year of radiation and chemo and everything just didn't work. And now to this day, this is 34 years ago, she is cancer-free. And then I read about all the other people who lost their heart disease, their diabetes, their autoimmune disorders. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I jumped right in. I didn't do it perfectly at first because I thought, I got to have my glass of wine at night, really. That's so comforting, so nice to have. And of course I had to have, every once in a while, I had some French fries with a little oil. not too much, but I just wasn't doing it quite right. I did lose weight because I wasn't eating all that chicken and fish and cheese. I think cheese was one of the biggest downfalls. As you know, it has that casomorphine in it, and it's highly addictive. So by giving just that up, I started to lose weight, but not all the way. I had over 50 pounds to go. I lost about 25 in a very short time, but I got stuck there. And then I reread Dr. McDougall and Mary McDougall's recipes, and I started doing them correctly. And then I slowly started to take all of it off, and I started to feel so good. I had one cancer radiation for my thyroid, and they said, you have to come back and do all your chemo too and do all your radiation. And I said, no, I'm not. I had one, unfortunately, because I met him 1 week too late. I mean, I heard about him. I didn't even meet the man yet. I just read his book. And after reading his book, I told my doctor, I'm not having any more radiation or chemotherapy. I'm done. I'm going to do it this other way by eating plants. Of course, my doctor said nothing. He didn't know what to say. What could he say? I had also a large lump taken out of my breast a year earlier, and it wasn't cancer. But I asked my doctor, what's it from? Is it from my food, or what? How do I get this lump? And he said, oh, no, your food's fine. I told him about my chicken and fish and all that. And he said, no, your food is fine. So I'm really mad at that doctor now, for not telling me the truth or not even bothering to find out what makes people healthy. So what happened to the Hippocratic Oath? I know they don't mean to hurt us and they didn't learn about nutrition, but aren't they even curious? I don't know why doctors don't get even curious. Or maybe there's enough money behind the medicine they're giving you and the radiation and the chemo to make it very profitable for them. I don't know. I hate to think of doctors that way, but maybe there's a lot of that in there. I think there is money in there involved too. But anyway, after reading Dr. John McDougall's book 3 times, I went on board and I actually started to get well. So 1 week after I got on board with the food, well, not perfectly at that point, but 1 week after I started doing it pretty well, my same neighbor told me as we were walking the dogs around the park, I love animals, and she told me, do you know what happens to dairy cows? I said, yeah, I really hate giving up my cheese. I really do. And she told me what happened to dairy cows right there. We had just started the walk, and I had to stop still and go, you've got to be kidding me. I don't understand why I don't know this. I'm 44 years old. I'm into health. I thought I was eating healthy. I teach aerobics, if I was doing everything right, and I had no idea what happened. I'm not going to tell you here what happens to them because I probably would start crying again. Mm-hmm. But it is not nice. It is very painful for the mother cow who becomes hamburger after only 4 years of her 20-year lifespan, after a horrible time trying to give birth over and over again and be milked 2 or 3 times a day. So it is horrendous. So that was it. Then I became an animal rights activist on the spot. But you know what? I can't be a good animal rights activist if I'm dead or if I'm sick. So I knew my health had to be number one. And I think a lot of people get into this diet over a health issue instead of for what's right to do. And I had my health issues, a whole bunch of them. I had the cancer, I had the heart disease, I had the prediabetes.
Well, Linda, let me ask you something. When you went through all of that cancer and you made that choice the way you did to go this path of plant-based living and so on, most people, when they have a cancer diagnosis, they get full of fear because that's the way it's really presented to them. So you fear for your life. Did you feel the need, even though you made that choice, to go back to your doc and follow up and check the progress of what you had been diagnosed with? Or did you just say, I'm leaving it all behind?
No, when I read that book And I saw that one cancer lady go like that after years of chemo, a year of chemo and radiation, and nothing, it didn't work.
Right.
So that was it. I mean,
So you took that leap of faith right there, basically, pretty much.
But talk about fear. When you get that big C word thrown at you, I remember sitting in the office going, me? I'm healthy. I can't have cancer. And I was deadly fearful. I was in shock. I couldn't even cry. I was in shock. Fortunately, I found out, what I found out. And that gave me all the courage I needed. I hadn't even talked to Dr. John yet. But I knew what he was doing was right. Every case that I ever followed from him, they got better. And I knew I had the confidence to go ahead and do that. And every day that I did it right, after I started doing it perfectly, and I was also eating a lot of processed, oil-free vegan food in the beginning as well, which wasn't, a lot of flours and sugars and salts, and even the vegan hot dogs and vegan sausages, the ones that didn't have oil though, and vegan cheeses and vegan ice cream. And in fact, the vegan ice cream kind of lingered out for a long time before I could give it all the way up, because I was an ice cream fanatic before, every time.
Now, did you find in that path, I know you went to Dr. McDougall and he's fantastic. When you were making those changes, now you're in the trenches, you're trying to lose weight, you're really getting active with everything. Were there other influencers and people and programs that added on to your influence, that helped you, a place where you could lean on in addition to Dr. McDougall?
I started reading, and I saw John Robbins' Food Revolution, and that made perfect sense. And I still follow Ocean Robbins today. And then I also, on the animal part, I read Peter Singer, Animal Liberation, and I read a slaughterhouse book too. Anyway, I forgot the name of it right now, but that did it. I didn't need any more. That's all I needed. And so it was enough for me. It gave me all the confidence in the world. And I already knew I didn't want to hurt animals. There's no reason to hurt one animal. In fact, today I still think, how can anyone get up in the morning and knowingly hurt animals for no reason, except they make us fat and sick when we eat them?
Yeah.
It's just a horrible thing. Our system is all wrong. So
I'm here with Linda Middlesworth. We're going to take just a short break to hear from our sponsor, the National Health Association, and we'll be right back. And now, to put a smile on the sponsors of the National Health Association, you're listening to the Health Science Podcast Show. I want to remind you to visit the National Health Association website, where you'll find incredible resources to support your healthy lifestyle, including plant-exclusive eating without added salt, oil, and sugar. Simply go to healthscience.org or nationalhealthassociation.org. Be sure to check out membership, which is $35 per year for those living within the U.S. and $55 for those living outside the U.S. You'll be amazed at all the information and benefits you'll receive. As a member, you're kept up to date on the latest evidence-based tools for health promotion. You'll receive the incomparable quarterly magazine, Health Science, a beautiful 40-page advertising-free publication mailed to your home or offices, loaded with articles, recipes, inspirational stories, and interviews with world leaders in the fields of personal health, plant-based nutrition, water-only fasting, animal rights, and environmental support. And you'll receive details about life-changing events, such as the 2023 NHA Conference set for June 23 to the 25th, 2023 in Cleveland, Ohio, which will be the NHA's 75th annual NHA Conference. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and now back to the show. Welcome back to the Health Science Podcast. I'm here with Linda Middlesworth, and we're really talking about animal rights, animal protection. I want to get into this company that you built, this vegan mentoring program. Talk about that, because I found that really interesting, because it really sounds like a really great way for you to give back and help people on their journey as they try to make these kinds of changes.
Yes, I started the Sacramento Vegan Society, which now has 5,200 members.
Wow. Okay.
In that, I knew I could reach a lot of people. So I started my own business, Vegan Mentor. And I also had done a lot of more research and got a lot of more certifications too. I did the T. Colin Campbell E. Cornell plant course. I did the Starch Solution course with Dr. John McDougall. And let's see what else. I did a couple more. Oh, I did the Food for Life program with Dr. Neil Bernard.
I saw that, really helping people with recipes that are people with cancer, diabetes, things of that nature, right?
Well, what's really nice about the Food for Life nutrition and cooking program is that it's not just the cooking, because I do cook something. I do a demo of cooking the recipe for cancer or diabetes, depending on which course I'm teaching. They usually have 4 sessions or more. And I have videos from Dr. Neil Bernard I showed during the course.
So it's a very educational, deep educational orientation for people.
So yes, introduction to diabetes, introduction to cancer, why we get cancer, some reasons we get cancer and diabetes. And just so you know, diabetes is reversible. And I actually reversed diabetes in many of my clients, but one of them had diabetes for 27 years. I'm not a doctor, and I reversed somebody's diabetes. Why?
Well, they actually reversed it, yes, because of these principles. Absolutely.
She learned from Dr. Bernard's video and talking to me and reading the right book to know what to do to reverse her diabetes. So after 27 years of getting more metformin, less up and down diabetes, she had no more diabetes. And that was about 10 years ago.
Well, Linda, you're a classic example of the fact that it's never too late. I think sometimes people feel that if enough time has gone by, it doesn't matter what they do, it's too late for them. And maybe they can prevent something, but they certainly can't reverse or change a devastating disease. And we know that that's not true. And you're a classic example of that, having walked that talk, really. But in that vegan mentoring program, I got the impression it was something that you work with people over a 30-day program. I'm a little unclear of how it works. Tell me how it works.
Okay, well, people sign up at the beginning of the month, usually at the beginning. Sometimes they start in the middle. But I have them write to me after they do all the reading I give them, and they have to watch videos like What the Health and The Game Changer. And then they have to read Dr. John McDougall's books. And if they need weight loss, they have to do his Maximum Weight Loss book. And after that, then I say, you're ready to go. So let's start you at the beginning of the month. Every day you will log in to me in the evening so I can go over your food, so I know you're on track. And I give them, I used to make it real easy. I said, okay, if you mess up, just pick yourself up and start over again. I don't do that anymore. I'll tell you why. I used to be really lenient. And then people would fall. It would be grandpa's 100th birthday, or it would be Christmas celebration. It would be something. And they would fall off. I thought, okay, I'm changing it. We're not going to fall off my program. If you fall off the first time, you can come back at the beginning of the next month and try it again. If you fall off again, I'll say you're not ready for me or the change, because you have to make this a lifestyle. Everything you put in your mouth has to matter. It has to help you be well. Now, if you don't need to lose weight, yes, you can have avocado sometimes and vegan chocolate sometimes, but you just can't do it all on a daily basis. And so that's what I've been doing. It seems to work much better. People are afraid to fall off now.
What do you feel about that idea, though, that people make changes from a place where they are? And I remember in my own life, in my own work, I would get sometimes early on in life preachy and really intense. And sometimes, you needed to teach people where they were at. So as much as bringing people into the fold, we know these foods, these processed vegan foods are not ideal. But do you see a place for them by at least bringing people into the fold and getting away from animal abuse and oppression and that kind of thing while they're making this shift, and then giving them the leeway to get a little bit stricter and a little bit more focused over time? Or do you just really don't want to participate in that anymore?
Well, the one thing I don't do is allow them to have the oil, because frankly, most people need to lose weight, as do most people in this country. Mm-hmm. And so I say, if you slip up on processed food, I'm not going to jump up and down and kill you for it. But if you put the oil in, that's when I have to say no, because you remain addicted to the oil and I want to get you off of it. So yeah, like one of my clients I've had for like 6 years, she had some breads and things like that over Christmas. It was all oil free. And so I said, okay, get back on track. So it's not like the end of the world if they're having a processed food, somebody's birthday, and they had a vegan chocolate cake with no oil and have a little piece. Okay, that's fine. I just can't stand the oil part, because then they completely are addicted to that oil again, and it's really hard to get them off of it once they have it.
Well, that's why we work with that SOS approach, because we know that the salt, the oil, and the added sugars are all highly addictive. And of course, that only reinforces people's compulsive eating and addiction and makes it hard for them to stay on track. Yeah. So we've gone that next step and say, look, the vegan approach is really amazing. The plant-based approach is amazing. But by taking this next step, it'll really help you leave those habits behind. And so, yeah, that's very powerful. And I'm glad that you're doing that. Let me shift gears for a little bit, because you're very beautiful and you've talked about it, 78, going on 79. And there's so much ageism in our culture, meaning that in so many people's minds, they have this preconceived notion of what's going to happen at a certain age. And then they kind of buy into that. And interestingly enough, it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're 70 or you're 72 or you're 75, and they just accept that people need to have high blood sugar, high blood pressure. You're someone who has broken through that. What do you tell people that have those really poor preconceived notions about age and ageism?
Well, I like to send them to Dr. Angela Crawford, and I like them to start reading. And also, I try to be an example, because I'm the oldest one in all 10 gyms in my area teaching aerobics and kickboxing and step and whatever. And I feel like I'm 25. And I get up in the morning happy to wake up, because I'm now finally the correct body weight. It makes you feel good inside and out. When you start to make those goals, then you want to be alive, you want to be participating, you want to help people, you want to think outside of yourself and beyond yourself, and be a part of this wonderful world. So if you don't make the changes, it's very hard to ever get over that hump of thinking, oh, I'm old, so I'm just going to sit here and do not much, because after all, I'm old. A lot of people think they don't have a purpose either. That's the other thing.
That's a big issue. I agree with you. There is no purpose. When you lose purpose, you lose focus in a certain way. And that's the same thing with retirement. Think about how people, they retire at a certain point and their lives just go downhill from there, because in a way we're meant to be active. We're meant to have purpose, I believe, throughout our entire lives. And so, and I think we need to embrace that. And, you have these movies like Game Changers, right? Which are talking about, high performance athletes moving into this plant-based way of living. I really see the game changers more people like you, meaning that you've walked the talk, you've experienced this idea that you create this incredible health span and performance at any stage of life, even in a latter stage of life. And that's the really true game-changing mindset that people need to know, that, when you embrace this, your ability to perform at the highest level will take place at any age, even in, you're still doing it, you're still teaching aerobics. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and do you have, and are you, yeah, I see it. I see the muscle mass. I see that.
I'm hoping that I can compete in a body building competition eventually. I have goals,
Well, that's all good.
And I think my purpose is, my husband died 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago now.
And he's the one that you started that company, VDog, where you were really doing vegetarian food for dogs.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. What was the motivation for that? What drove you to that?
We had heard that somebody had started a vegan dog food company somewhere, and I think in England. And we thought we were already vegans. We knew what it did for us, and we didn't know dogs could be vegan. I mean, they're dogs after all. But we did all the research with scientists, with veterinarians, everybody. And we found out that dogs can thrive because they're omnivores, not like cats who are obligate carnivores,
Right.
but they're omnivores. Plus, over evolution, they've been living with humans. And so they have developed extra amylase hormone to digest starch. So we knew we were getting on a good path when we did all the research. So we decided, let's do this. We don't have to kill animals for our dog food, because we always rescued dogs, especially pit bulls, because they are the most maligned. And so we started V-Dog food together, and it was great. He unfortunately passed away, but my son, who had been working with us a little bit, took it over. And so he's the president and the CEO and actually runs the company out of San Francisco. So anyway, we're real happy. We're in other countries, but my dear husband gave the name away before he died to somebody in England, called him and said, "Oh, we love the name of your dog food. Can we use it?" And he said, "Okay."
And he just gave it away. Okay.
He gave it away. So when the rest of the world were called V Planet,
Oh, okay.
we had to. And there's also a very bad dog food over there called V-Dog.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So that person went ahead and made a dog food company too. But anyway, we sell in a whole bunch of countries outside of the United States as well.
I'm here with my very special guest, Linda Middlesworth. Linda, why don't you tell people how they can find you? What's the best location, the best site that they can find you and follow you if they want to follow you?
Well, my website is veganmentor.com. And also my Facebook page is Vegan Mentor plus or Linda Middlesworth. And then Instagram is Linda M Vegan. And Twitter is Farm Animal Love. So
they can find you and
Mentor
follow you.
The Vegan Mentor is the best, or even by my email, veganmentor@gmail.com.
Let's talk about something that intrigued me. I was looking at something that was called SAVE, where they are trying to reduce the oppression and captivity of animals worldwide. And talk to me about that, because I was very intrigued about that organization. And how are you involved in that, and how does that operate for you?
I have a branch of that Animal Save movement. I have the Sacramento Animal Save movement, and I also have the Sacramento Animal Rights Group. And I work with PETA and DXE, Direct Action Everywhere, both. The three of us work together to, on the Save movement, what we do is we go to vigils. We actually go to like Stockton, where they have slaughterhouses. And it's usually in the evening between 10 and 12 in the evening. And we actually stop the pig trucks before they go to slaughter. They have these Walmart-sized trucks with pigs in 3 tiers, all little baby pigs piled on top of each other, who had to go for 2 or 3 days, no water, no food, in 110 degrees or whatever the cold was. And they're all piled on each other. And what we do on the Save movement, we videotape it so everybody can see their eyes and see them struggling inside the truck. There's these little holes, oval holes we can look into, and we give them some water. The first kindness they've ever had from a human. They get water before they go off to slaughter. We have done undercover in that slaughterhouse in Stockton. And so we can see all the abuse that goes on with them in Stockton as well. So being part of the Save movement is to get people's eyes on what's concealed. All our factory farms are concealed for a reason. We don't take our children to slaughterhouses to get their meat. We take them to an apple orchard to get an apple, but we won't take them to the slaughterhouse, will we? And even adults have no idea what's going on behind the closed doors.
That's the thing. If those slaughterhouses had glass windows and glass doors, no one would eat it if they saw that.
That's right. That's
what was called bearing witness. I saw that there was this thing about bearing witness. So that's how you bear witness. And then what do you do with those videos and things? How are they spread out? How are they shown?
All over any social media site we have.
Okay.
Yeah, every single one of them. And we show them. And then whenever I have to do one, we do them about once every second month or so. And I don't sleep for a week after that, because, you know, when you look in their eyes and tell them you love them, and they're just like having my baby dog in there, right? There's no difference. And they don't know why or what's happening. And it's very sad. But what we do, we also do it in honor of this lady named Reagan, who actually was killed by one of the trucks. She was standing in front of the truck and they took off on her and killed her. So it was in UK, and we all do things in her honor now because she loved animals like I do and we do, and was trying her hardest to get awareness to the public about what's going on with the animals. There's a book called Every 12 Seconds by this engineer who went undercover inside of a slaughterhouse and did all the jobs of a slaughterhouse, even though he was, a family man. He took 6 months out of his life. But that book is something I'd love everybody to read. So because it's all hidden. We need to uncover it so people know.
It's kind of intriguing when you think about it. Like if you look at all the humans that have been slaughtered by dictators and people across time, they tally up to millions of people. And of course, we're appalled by that. And yet somehow when we're killing 1 trillion land and sea animals yearly, we don't have that sense of appall. And it's kind of always been interesting. And I love the line that you had, because we think of them as something, not someone. And
Yes.
I think that mentality needs to shift. And it's very intriguing that in the criminal justice system, even they have recognized that people that are involved in animal abuse, there's something in the criminal justice system called the link. And they tend to be people that will then abuse other parts of the human population. So people don't understand that the cultural mindset of violence and oppression translates from this abuse to animals even into human interaction. And that going plant-based, you have this foundation of empathy and compassion that literally destroys that mindset, literally dissolves that mindset.
Exactly.
So it's so far beyond just the issue of personal health, though that's important. But this is such an important piece as we get inundated with violence all around us, even in our human population.
Well, even think of the fact that we have 8.5 billion animals we slaughter every year just in the United States. And that does include the trillions of fish.
Right. That's why I said it's over trillions when you calculate land and sea. It's amazing.
And the fish, I want to talk about fish for a minute, because that's
please.
one of the hardest things. My doctor at Kaiser, I'm still trying to get him off fish, because fish feel pain exactly like your dog does. Exactly like you would if you had a hook in your mouth and were pulled underneath. They feel pain. They have families. They recognize their own families and people. They have love and joy too, just like our dog does. And a lot of people have no idea. And children are often taken to fishing camps and shown how to kill. We're showing them how to kill and be insensitive and be desensitized to that animal. And that includes every animal. We put them in rodeos. We put kids on backs of little calves, and then we do the wild milking contest. We're teaching children right up from when they're very little that animals don't have feelings. The animals don't have fear and joy, and they don't have pain. So we have to stop this mindset. And yes, you have to be healthy in order to do all this work, right? So that's why it's important to take care of yourself first. I would have been dead 34 years ago had I not met Dr. John McDougall. And I wouldn't be here fighting for the animals like I am. And then there's the climate issue. We're destroying our forest. And the methane gas produced by the livestock is 50 times stronger than carbon dioxide, and it's killing us. And we're using all our arable land to grow the food to feed to the cows when people in Africa are starving.
Yeah, I tell people we have 9,000 children that die every single day of starvation on the planet. That means when you get up in the morning, another 9,000 children have died. And if you think about the fact that we're spending so much of that land feeding land animals that we're destroying, that only about 80% of all the food grown is feeding those animals, while they only produce about 15% of what we eat. And now, as you said, you're destroying all of that arable land that can sequester carbon and protect us. And that data from climate healers that suggests that from 1970 till now, We
Yeah,
have lost 70% of wild animals on planet Earth.
I know.
That's just unconscionable if you really
Yeah,
think about that. And it can't go on that way.
no, it can't.
We have to embrace this as a way to not only heal ourselves, but be the caretakers for these beautiful creatures around us while we care for this planet that we live on and gives us life and joy and all the things you've talked about,
Well,
which
I
are
love
really, really so important.
Dr. Richard Oppenlander, who wrote Food Choice and Sustainability, and also Dr. Sailesh Rao,
Right.
who does all these. He's changing systems. We need to change the food system. He has vegan universities, for instance, he started, and community kitchens. So we need to do, the whole system has to change, and he's helping with that. And Glenn Mertzer, who wrote Food is Climate, I mean, well, he has a great way of communicating all the issues with raising animals for food. And then, of course, I'm also appalled the fact, did you know that cows eat more fish than humans do? We actually are feeding the fish farms, and those are really gross and full of bacteria, and they have to give chemicals and all kinds of things. And then all the dead parts of that are actually put into dog food. So another reason why I like having a vegan dog food. But we really, cows eat so much fish, and they're vegetarians. It makes them sick, so we have to give them antibiotics and everything because they don't feel good either.
Yeah, I think too many people just feel like as an individual they can't make a difference, which is a huge mistake, because
Yeah.
you're making this point of these grassroots movements, whether it's Dr. Rao or even the work you're doing with mentoring and recipes and sharing things across the world, animal activism and so on. We all can take a step individually to make a huge difference. And if we do that one by one and understand our connection to this whole process of life around us, we can really become the caretakers that we should be on this planet and not the abusers, leading
You are a doctor helping with this, because not enough doctors know about this.
Right.
My own doctor that I have right now, he's vegan, and I taught him to be oil-free now too. But I said, have you told any of the other doctors at Kaiser? And he said, no. He said, none. He's afraid.
They're afraid to speak up. It's so funny. It's really ridiculous when you think about it.
Might lose his job, maybe, And Kaiser.
Look, there's enough docs that are now making those shifts and movements. It's not like it's not being done by people. I do believe, though, there is fear. There is fear that they may lose privileges. Look, hospitals and places have quotas. They need a certain amount of surgeries. They need a certain amount of this and that to really function. So you're bucking a tough system, but we do need to take a Hippocratic oath for humanity and for all these creatures, and that is to do no harm. And I really agree with you. And I think we really have to emphasize and work toward that. So Linda, let me ask you, before we break, do you have any final words or advice you'd like to share with the people out here that are watching?
Yeah, I'd say, don't be afraid to do something. Even if you don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't have to start vegan mentoring. Although if you want to, I'll show you how to do it. I'll help you get started if you like that idea. But the main thing is, you don't have to go to vigils like I do. I have friends my age who would never go to a vigil. It's too distressing for them. And it is distressing, but to me, I feel like it's another way I can help. But you don't have to do it that way. You can do it by even writing letters to editors whenever you see somebody. Like I have a friend, Eric Mills. He writes to all the newspapers who promote rodeos. Right. You can be a person. I can give you his email. He'll send you newspapers you can write and tell people why we shouldn't be having rodeos and hurting animals. There's all different kinds of ways to do it. You can just be an example yourself by eating a whole food plant diet and feeling great, because when you're an example, people want to be like you. They really do. They want to know, how'd you do that? Why do you feel so good and you're so old? I love that one.
Oh, I love that too. That's
you're so old and you don't have any health problems. Wait a minute. I think being an example is already just wonderful. So make sure you get on that diet, and I can help you at Vegan Mentor. So if you would like to get there, I'm glad to do it.
Well, I want to really thank you. This has been a special interview together. I want to really thank you for your time. I want to thank the beautiful and game-changing vegan activist Linda Middlesworth for her time and words of wisdom. I encourage you to follow her, go to her website, go and follow through, take your step in some grassroots movement on your own, and use her example to do that. And I especially want to thank our listeners out there. Without you, I couldn't do what I'm doing here. And I want to really thank you for being a part of this active community for the NHA. And on behalf of the National Health Association, I want to thank you for being with us. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and I look forward to being with you on the next program.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association. Thank you for joining us today and for your commitment to evidence-based health science that backs a whole food, plant-exclusive lifestyle and contributes to the well-being of all people, animals, and our environment. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. Be sure to leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next show.